Okay, let's have a look at Nakamura's 8th round loss against Hao Wang, so Chinese #1 player, rated 2724, not much less than Nakamura, who's 2733. So Nakamura was playing white and played G3. So I don't know if him and Carlsen are not trying to play main line openings or very sharp openings. Maybe it's the London Classic. I think Nakamura is playing in it later in December. Carlsen certainly is. So G3, you know, I mean, lazy GMs like Norwood have played this. I mean, I don't think he would mind me calling him lazy. He's relaxing in the Bahamas now, having made it in other areas. So he used to play this all the time. But generally, you know, would you expect 2700s to be playing G3? Well, Black seemed to equalise kind of easily, actually, with a very simple idea of getting 2 pawns in the centre. Now E5 and D5. Okay, and after D3, Black, you know, continues very simply, getting both knights now to F6 and C6. So, if you want to remember a system against this G3, this would seem to be an interesting idea and easy to remember. Just get 2 pawns in the centre and develop both your knights like this. Now after A3, White may be playing B4 later to try and attack this knight to get pressure on E5. So Black makes a concession now by playing A5. So although restraining White from B4, potentially B5 is a bit weaker. Potentially also B4 could come anyway later, hitting that A5 pawn. Anyway, Naka plays castles, and now Black plays bishop e7, so nothing really adventurous from Black at all. Kind of classical central play, just preparing to castle. But now c4, an early strike at Black's d5. And Black now faces an interesting decision here. I don't think he wanted to play bishop e6 because of knight g5 in this particular position. Or d takes c4 is a bit committal. What he does play is actually d4, so he's kind of keeping his pawns intact, one of them protecting that more advanced one. And thematically, against this pawn chain that White has, if we examine what would be the undermining points or the exploitable base of the pawn chain here, it would be d3, I think. So Black's moves in this game would seem quite instructive for undermining d3 in particular. So after knight bd2, Black castled, and now rook b1. So Black is still faced now with White playing b4 and b5 potentially, but not quite in this position. Black's got enough control with the a pawn and the bishop. Knight can't be really used at the moment because it's doing the job of protecting e5. So Black plays rook e8, and now Naka adds support for this idea of playing b4. We're playing knight e1 because I think the knight's going to reroute here to c2 and then play b4 b5 where it would undermine e5. But also White can treat by playing for f4 eventually, but Black's not too concerned about that. He has an interesting idea here against this. Anyway, he first plays a4 to lock down White's queen side, or it really means that if b4 is going to be played, it's going to come at the cost of isolating and weakening this pawn on a3. Despite this, anyway, Nakamura plays knight c2 as if he's going to play b4 anyway, because the knight on c2 is actually protecting a3, so as well as the bishop. So maybe White would hope to gain that semi-open file pressure on the b file. Bishop f8 though, neatly tucking away the bishop. And now we see b4 actually being played. So what is the balance of power here? White's b file pressure, or this, you know, potential weakness on a3. So after ab, knight takes b3. Black is not too concerned. There's no concrete threats at the moment on the B file. He actually just plays h6, which ordinarily might, be a weakening move if f5 was any weaker, but here it seems fine, and to stop any bishop g5s it's kind of useful without tying in the bishop, maybe for bishop e7s. So the bishop's just usefully eyeing a3 without any other responsibilities, and it's here that Nakamura lashes out with maybe quite an unsound idea, because structurally his pawn chain is a target all the time, and this move doesn't really help. This move f4, and it's easy to say in retrospect, of course, and it may have worked out favourably if Black didn't play so accurately, etc. But Black played what seems to be quite a significant punch in the centre, this e4, and it's starting to look quite uncomfortable here. D takes, knight takes c4, knight d4 is going to foul to stuff like knight c3s, forking queen and rook. So actually Naka, he just plays f5 as though inviting maybe a tempting move e3, but if e3 was played, d4 might be attacked from the side with bishop b2, and it might justify in fact White's pawn on f5. So instead of locking down the pawns, actually Black decided to intensify the pressure on this d3 pawn by playing knight e5, and here Black is offering d4, because if d4 is taken, a3 is going to drop, so we have an exchange of prisoners, as Nimzowitsch would say. So first this taking on d3 and now taking on a3. So it seems as though White has won the centre pawn, giving up his flank a pawn. So in theory you'd think White's going to be okay, but in the concrete details of the position here, after this rook takes a3, there's an amazing little move which maybe Naka underestimated, didn't factor in, because in theory if he can just unravel his centre, he'll have nice centre pawns. But after queen d2, there's a kind of a rude awakening move here, an unusual move which I don't remember seeing in many games like this. I wonder if you can spot it if I give you 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, Black played rook a6, an unusual rook manoeuvre. Knight can't move because queen takes d4, so can't do anything about this rook d6 coming in, attacking the knight, attacking this pawn. So it's again all about d3, but from the front, not from the side. So this rook a6, very interesting manoeuvre to go to d6, putting more pressure centrally. So queen c3 was played, which has some points that one of the rooks can guard d3 potentially, but now knight g4 is kind of a rude interruption of that idea, because now any rook d1s, there's knight e3s. There's knight e3 threatened anyway, the idea of threatening a fork of g2 and f1. So it looks as though White has a much looser position than Black, especially with that dreadful e3 square. So after rook fe1, knight e3 was actually played, and now Naka didn't want to lose that light square bishop in a hurry, so he played bishop h3. Now we finally see this rook d6. So Naka is starting to feel the pressure, and with this move it's preparing actually, after queen b2, Black played another very striking move, intensifying the d-file pressure, a very simple move actually. If I give you 5 seconds, I wonder if you can spot it. Okay, just c5, so offering the c pawn to get that knight and then to get access to that d3 pawn again. So actually Naka just but pardon me, knight takes c5, just rook takes d4, just wins a piece. So in fact d3 is falling off the board now. It just looks kind of nasty on these central files for White. The pressure is just amazing. These adjacent rooks doing a fine job on these files, and these knights are kind of dangerous, and the bishops not bad either, just sitting on c8 eyeing f5. So White has a thoroughly unpleasant looking position. Okay, it's here that white can actually get c5 anyway. So knight takes c5, but with d3 dropping, the chain drops as well. Knight takes c4, which the d3 pawn was protecting, attacking the queen. And after queen b4, attacking the knight, but his knight was also attacked, so it's actually an exchange of knights here. Now it looks as though, well, you know, maybe you could say white still has that b file pressure, but actually black casually plays b6 now. So he's driving Naka back, and you know, if something like rook e8, then queen e8, and if rook b6, then queen e1's kind of deadly looking, or queen e3. So white can't give up possession of the e file. He actually kicks that rook with bishop g2, but the rook snaps up this poor f5 pawn. So we have a horrible situation where it's as if white is actually 2 pawns down here and just faced a central onslaught. Naka plays knight e4, and now after knight takes, rook takes, black coordinates the rooks again with rook e5. Okay, and after queen d4, an exchange of rooks occurred after, and also an exchange of queens. So we have a lot of exchanges here, leaving black 2 pawns up in this endgame. And it seems unfortunate what happened from this endgame position. After bishop g4, black is immediately threatening to exchange off another pair of rooks, so white avoids that with rook e7. But now check, and rook d6. And this is again kind of nasty looking, because it's actually threatening rook e6, actually exchanging off a pair of rooks. So Naka, he doesn't want the rooks coming off to just be 2 pawns down for nothing, so he plays rook c7 to protect that bishop, instead of just moving the bishop away, allowing rook e6. And now comes check, and a really vicious pin with rook c1, because the rook can't move, it can't play the checks of the bishop. So white's pieces are both stranded now on c7 and c6. And after king e3, black's in no hurry to do anything in particular, except for deprive the white king from coming to f4. So he plays g5, and you know, maybe black can later now just play king g7 and b5 at leisure, and that horrible pin means it can't be taken. So it looks like a crushing advantage here, with white pinned down and both pieces tied up and restricted, not able to move. You know, it's really staggering, this game, really, to see Nakamura seemingly forced into passivity and his centre dismantled like that. I think part of the problem maybe was f4, f5, but maybe preparing to avoiding this a4 from black might have been useful, just, you know, to play b3 first to really delay this plan of playing for b4, because after a4 any b4 is gonna result in the isolated pawn. But okay, comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.